Hello friends, Allison here. Welcome back to my channel. I have a new layout to share with you that is going in my October daily album. It's a double page layout again, and it is also going outside of the page protector. I used my Cricut to put this page together as well. So right now what I'm doing is adding some liquid glue to the back side of a overlay that I created with the Cricut. It is a knit pattern. I love it. And I chose a knit pattern because it worked really well with my photo, which is what you see sort of in the top left-hand corner of the screen, or just the left-hand side of the screen. I had a knit sweater on, and I thought that it would tie the two pages of this double page layout together really well. I also used some scrap papers that I had lying around in my stash. That wood grain pattern paper is from Cocoa Vanilla Studio, and I was just showing you there that I'm going to be adding some stamping to this layout as well. I pulled out a stamp and die set combo that I have from Close to My Heart in my stash. I don't believe this set is available anymore at Close to My Heart, but there are other stamp sets that have the dies included with them in the stamp set. They're a little bit more money than a regular stamp set would be from Close to My Heart, but you are getting double the amount of product in that stamp set. So some of the dies that are in that stamp set are going to cut out some of the images from the stamp set. So the image that I stamped here is these mushrooms and flowers, and then die cut it with the dies that came with the stamp set. I'll include all the products that I used in today's video in the description box down below so that you can find them easily. I also used my Spectrum Noir markers to color in this image as well. If you're going to do something like this in your crafting, you're going to want to use an ink that is alcohol marker friendly. So I used Close to My Heart's Intense black ink. I did use Stays on black ink first. It did not work. The color smudged. I should have known better, but I wasn't really thinking straight when I started the stamping. So backtracked a little bit, restamped the image and cut it out a second time with the right ink, and then proceeded to color in the images. I stuck with just a few colors to fill this image in. So I'm using mostly neutrals. So there's gold, there is tan, and then I do break away from that once I've got the mushrooms all filled in and use coral, the bright pink, which in my opinion is like hot pink. I keep wanting to call it hot pink, but it is actually just bright pink. And then I use citrus green as well to finish the image off. I am by no means a spectacular color artist. I did try adding some shading to this image. I started with the lightest color first and then worked my way up to the darkest shade in the tri-blend markers and just played around with adding shading. I wasn't too concerned about where the source of light was coming from and where that would be hitting the image. I just added a little bit of shading. There's really no right or wrong way to color images in. So if you want to color. Don't worry so much about what you're doing right or if you're doing it right. Just let your heart lead and follow it. So there is the pink that I added to this image. I do add pink a little bit later on to the center of the daisy over on like the right hand side of that image, just to pull in a little bit more of that pink. That way it didn't look so out of place. And here's the coral that I'm adding as well. So like I said, I'm starting with the lightest shade in this pen. I will move to the medium shade, and then once that is done, I'm keeping the medium shading to the center of the flower, and then the very darkest shade will be right in the very center. And then in the deepest parts of the petals, kind of where they'd overlap and connect, is where the darkest colors would be. To finish this image off, I decided to use the citrus green just to give the grass and flower stems a little bit of color as well. I toyed with adding some blue or something to the background behind the floral images just to make it seem like there was sky behind there, but I actually just left it alone because I didn't really know how to execute it if I was going to do it. So rather than fudging up the image, I just let it be. Here I'm adding lines with my T-square ruler to the white space of the right-hand page. So that is where my journaling is going to go. I'm just going to use a plain black pen to do the journaling, and then I'm going to keep pulling the stamped image in every so often to be sure I leave enough room for the highest or the tallest flower to live without covering up too much of the journaling. So you'll see that in just a moment. You won't see it in this video, but I will erase all of the lines after the journaling is done, and then realize that I should have underlined all the journaling as well before I erased all the lines. But I do all that off camera, so it'll magically appear here in just a moment. But I'm just finishing up the journaling right now. And as you can see, I'm pulling in that floral image just to be sure everything is going to fit and look good. And here I decided to pull out my clear shimmer brush from Close to My Heart and add a little bit of sparkle just to the flowers. I thought that would be a really nice touch. I don't know if it picks up very well in the video here, and I know it doesn't in the close-ups at the end of the video. I tried, but you saw me put it on there. I know that it's there, you know that it's there, and it really does look good in the end. Now I went back to the same stamp set that I was just using and pulled out one of the phrases that's included in that stamp set, and I'm going to stamp it at the top of my page. I'm just going to use the same black ink that I did before, so that is the Intense Black ink from Close to My Heart. For this part of the stamping, it really doesn't matter what ink you use. I was thinking about using dark brown ink to stamp the phrase at the top, but I wasn't sure it would show up really well against the black or against the wood grain. The black doesn't even show up all that well either. So that is something to keep in mind as well. You could add your stamping to another piece of cardstock or a lighter piece of pattern paper and then turn it into a pennant and put it up at the top. I didn't want to do that. I liked it just the way that it was, and you'll see in a little bit that I will add some acrylic hearts from Close to My Heart beneath the stamped image as well, so that it draws a little bit more attention to that phrase and gets around the fact that it kind of blends into the background on that pattern paper. At the bottom with my floral image, you saw me add foam squares to the back of it just to lift it up off the layout base. I really like that. I really toyed with adding a phrase down there as well on top of the nature scene, but I thought in the end that I would just leave it. I didn't want to play with it too much because I really liked the direction that this was going. I'm coloring in those acrylic hearts with my Spectrum Noir markers again. You can color on your acrylic shapes, and once you do, that color will stay. Just give it a few minutes to dry so that you don't rub it off. You can see me moving my hand above it just to try and fan it off a little bit to speed up the drying process. And then I use liquid glue to attach the acrylic hearts at the top beneath my stamped phrase. Once I have those attached, this layout is completely done. I really like how this layout came together. Quite honestly, I'm really drawn to the yellow in both my photo and on this page as well. And I knew that because I had used my Cricut to cut that knit pattern that I would need something layered behind it, so that just to give it some presence. So I pulled in more of that yellow there, and I think it's just superb. Here's my close-ups. Thank you so much for joining me today, friends. I hope this layout inspired you, and I hope you stick around to see more October Daily videos from me. I'll be back again soon. Bye, friends.